12 brutal Stoic truths that will transform your life. Marcus Aurelius would approve. Picture this: you're the most powerful man in the world. You control vast armies, unlimited wealth, and have access to every pleasure imaginable. You could indulge in any vice, satisfy any desire, and nobody would dare stop you. Yet instead of choosing hedonism, you choose virtue. Instead of seeking pleasure, you pursue wisdom. This wasn't a hypothetical scenario. This was the reality of Marcus Aurelius, Roman emperor from 161 to 180 AD, and perhaps the greatest philosopher king who ever lived. But here's what makes Marcus Aurelius truly extraordinary. We know he was genuinely virtuous, not because of public records or political propaganda, but because of his private journal. A journal never meant to be read by anyone else, filled with his deepest thoughts, struggles, and philosophical reflections. This journal, which we now call Meditations, reveals a man who chose wisdom over pleasure, virtue over vice, and growth over comfort, even when no one was watching. The 12 brutal truths I'm about to share with you aren't just ancient philosophy, they're practical weapons for modern warfare. The warfare against anxiety, meaninglessness, social media comparison, and the constant noise that threatens to destroy your inner peace. These aren't feel-good platitudes or motivational quotes. They're hard-hitting realizations that will fundamentally change how you see yourself and your place in the world. What makes these truths brutal is that they demand complete personal responsibility. They strip away excuses, eliminate victim mentality, and force you to confront the reality that your happiness, success, and peace of mind are entirely within your control. This isn't comfortable, but it's liberating. When you truly understand these principles, you'll never again be at the mercy of external circumstances or other people's opinions. Marcus Aurelius faced plagues, wars, betrayals, and personal tragedies, yet he maintained his composure and virtue through it all. He developed a philosophical framework so powerful that it's still transforming lives 2,000 years later. These aren't just ideas to think about, they're tools to live by. By the end of this revelation, you'll understand why successful entrepreneurs, elite athletes, and world leaders consistently turn to Stoic philosophy for guidance. The control revelation, the first brutal truth that will shatter your illusions about life, is the dichotomy of control, and it's the foundation of everything else we'll discuss. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This seems simple until you realize that most human suffering comes from trying to control things that are completely outside our influence. Here's what you can control: your thoughts, your reactions, your decisions, your effort, and your character. That's it. Everything else, your reputation, other people's opinions, the weather, the economy, whether you get promoted, whether someone likes you, whether you get sick, whether you live or die, all of this is outside your control. This isn't pessimism, it's liberation. Think about how much mental energy you waste every day worrying about things you can't control. You stress about what people think of your social media posts. You lose sleep over whether your boss will approve your proposal. You get angry about traffic, politics, or your neighbor's loud music. All of this energy is completely wasted because you're trying to control the uncontrollable. The modern world has made this problem exponentially worse. Social media creates the illusion that we can control our image and reputation, but we can't. We can control what we post, but not how others interpret it. We can control our message, but not how it's received. Dating apps make us think we can control romantic outcomes, but we can only control our own behavior and choices, not whether someone swipes right or responds to our messages. When you truly internalize the dichotomy of control, everything changes. You stop wasting energy on external validation and start focusing on internal development. You stop trying to manage other people's emotions and start managing your own. You stop complaining about circumstances and start adapting to them. This shift in focus is what separates victims from victors, complainers from achievers. But here's the brutal part. Accepting what you can't control means taking full responsibility for what you can control. You can't blame your mood on the weather, your failure on the economy, or your loneliness on other people. Your thoughts, reactions, and choices are yours alone. This is terrifying for people who have built their identity around external circumstances, but it's empowering for those brave enough to embrace it. Marcus Aurelius lived this principle while dealing with a devastating plague that killed millions of Romans, constant military campaigns, and personal betrayals. He didn't waste time complaining about these circumstances because he understood they were outside his control. Instead, he focused on how to respond with virtue, wisdom, and strength. This is why he remained peaceful and effective while others around him panicked and despaired. The practical application of this truth is immediate and powerful. Before you react to any situation, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, accept it and move on. If the answer is yes, take complete responsibility for your response. This simple question will eliminate most of your stress and anxiety while dramatically increasing your effectiveness and peace of mind. The death meditation, the second brutal truth, is that you're going to die, and this awareness is the key to living fully. Marcus Aurelius was obsessed with death, not morbidly, but philosophically. He understood that death gives life meaning, urgency, and perspective. He wrote, "It is a shameful thing to be weary of inquiry when what we search for is excellent. Death isn't the enemy of life, it's the teacher that shows us what truly matters." This isn't about being depressed or morbid, it's about using mortality as a tool for clarity. When you truly accept that your time is limited, you stop wasting it on trivial pursuits. You stop scrolling mindlessly through social media, you stop gossiping about people who don't matter, you stop complaining about problems that won't matter in 5 years. Death consciousness creates life consciousness. The Stoics practiced what they called Memento Mori, regularly remembering death to appreciate life. They would imagine this being their last day, their last conversation, their last meal. This practice didn't make them sad, it made them grateful. It made them present. It made them realize that most of their problems were insignificant compared to the preciousness of simply being alive. Modern society tries to hide death, sanitize it, and pretend it doesn't exist. We've become so disconnected from mortality that we take life for granted. We act as if we have unlimited time, unlimited chances, unlimited opportunities. This illusion makes us lazy, entitled, and ungrateful. Death awareness shatters this complacency and forces us to live with intention. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. It forces you to confront whether you're actually living or just existing. When you imagine this being your last year, last month, or last week, are you proud of how you're spending your time? Are you pursuing what truly matters to you, or are you just going through the motions? Death consciousness reveals the gap between your values and your actions. Marcus Aurelius used death meditation to maintain perspective during his greatest challenges. When facing political pressure, military defeats, or personal loss, he would remind himself that all of this was temporary. Everyone involved in these dramas would eventually be dead and forgotten. This perspective didn't make him callous, it made him wise. It helped him focus on what would matter in the long run, his character, his choices, and his contribution to the world. The practical application of death meditation is transformative. When someone cuts you off in traffic, remember that both of you will be dead in a few decades. When you're stressed about a work deadline, remember that in 100 years, nobody will remember whether you finished it on time. When you're angry about a relationship conflict, remember that life is too short to waste on resentment. This isn't about becoming indifferent to your responsibilities or relationships. It's about maintaining proper perspective. The things that matter most, love, growth, virtue, contribution, become clearer when you remember that your time to pursue them is limited. Death doesn't make life meaningless, it makes meaningful life urgent. The obstacle as path, the third brutal truth, is that your obstacles aren't blocking your path, they are your path. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't motivational nonsense, it's a fundamental truth about how growth and strength are developed. Every obstacle you face is an opportunity to develop the exact qualities you need to succeed. Think about this. You can't develop patience without facing delays. You can't develop courage without facing fear. You can't develop resilience without facing setbacks. The very things you're trying to avoid are the things that will make you stronger. The universe isn't conspiring against you, it's conspiring to forge you into the person you need to become. This principle completely reframes how you view challenges. Instead of seeing problems as evidence that life is unfair or that you're unlucky, you start seeing them as training exercises. Each difficulty is a chance to practice the virtues you claim to value. Each setback is an opportunity to demonstrate your character. Each obstacle is a step toward becoming the person you're meant to be. The modern world has created a generation of people who expect life to be easy and comfortable. We've been taught to avoid discomfort, seek pleasure, and view any difficulty as a problem to be solved or avoided. This mentality makes us weak, entitled, and unprepared for the inevitable challenges that life presents. The Stoics understood that difficulty isn't a bug in the system, it's a feature. Marcus Aurelius ruled during some of the most challenging times in Roman history. He faced plague, war, betrayal, and personal loss. He could have viewed these as unfortunate circumstances that prevented him from being a good emperor. Instead, he viewed them as opportunities to demonstrate what a good emperor looks like under pressure. The obstacles didn't derail his mission, they defined it. But here's the brutal part. This means you can't use your circumstances as excuses for not becoming who you're meant to be. You can't blame your family, your genetics, your education, or your environment for your lack of growth. Whatever obstacles you're facing aren't preventing you from developing character, they're providing you with the exact opportunities you need to develop it. The practical application of this truth requires a complete mindset shift. When you encounter a difficult person, instead of complaining about them, ask yourself what virtue you can practice. When you face a setback, instead of feeling sorry for yourself, ask what lesson you can learn. When you're dealing with stress, instead of seeking escape, ask how you can grow stronger. This doesn't mean seeking out unnecessary suffering or creating problems for yourself. It means recognizing that the problems you already have are perfectly designed to develop the qualities you need. The person who annoys you is teaching you patience. The job that challenges you is developing your competence. The relationship that requires work is building your capacity for love. The obstacle as path principle transforms you from a victim of circumstances into a student of life. Every experience becomes valuable, every challenge becomes meaningful, and every setback becomes a setup for a comeback. This is how you develop antifragility, the ability to get stronger from stressors rather than just surviving them. The inner citadel, the fourth brutal truth, is that you must build an inner citadel, a fortress of the mind that cannot be conquered by external circumstances or other people's opinions. Marcus Aurelius understood that true strength comes from within and that no external force can disturb your peace unless you allow it. He wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does." Your inner citadel is your core identity, your values, your self-worth, and your emotional stability. It's the part of you that remains constant regardless of what's happening around you. When this citadel is strong, you can face criticism without being crushed, experience failure without being destroyed, and encounter success without being corrupted. You become unshakable because your foundation is internal rather than external. Most people build their identity on external validation. They feel good when others approve of them and bad when others disapprove. They measure their worth by their achievements, possessions, or social status. This makes them incredibly vulnerable because they're dependent on things they can't control. Their mood, confidence, and sense of self fluctuate based on circumstances and other people's reactions. The inner citadel is built through self-examination, self-acceptance, and self-validation. You must learn to approve of yourself based on your own standards rather than seeking approval from others. You must find your worth in your character rather than your achievements. You must develop confidence that comes from within rather than from external feedback. Marcus Aurelius had access to unlimited external validation. He was literally worshipped as a god by millions of people, yet he didn't derive his sense of self from this adoration. He built his identity on his commitment to virtue, wisdom, and service. This is why he could maintain his composure when facing criticism, betrayal, or failure. His inner citadel was impregnable because it wasn't dependent on external circumstances. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. Building an inner citadel requires you to stop seeking external validation, which means giving up one of the most addictive drugs available to humans. You must learn to be okay with disapproval, criticism, and even rejection. You must develop the strength to stand alone when necessary and the wisdom to trust your own judgment even when others disagree. The modern world makes building an inner citadel extremely difficult. Social media creates constant opportunities for validation-seeking behavior. We measure our worth by likes, comments, and shares. We compare our lives to others' highlight reels. We seek approval from strangers and base our self-esteem on external metrics. This makes us weak, anxious, and dependent on forces beyond our control. The practical application of inner citadel building involves developing what the Stoics called preferred indifference. These are things that are naturally preferable, like health, wealth, and success, but that don't determine your worth or happiness. You can prefer these things without being attached to them. You can work toward them without being dependent on them. This means learning to find satisfaction in effort rather than results, in character rather than achievements, in growth rather than recognition. You must develop the ability to feel good about yourself based on your own assessment of your actions and choices. You must learn to be your own source of validation rather than seeking it from others. The inner citadel isn't built overnight. It's developed through consistent practice and gradual strengthening. Every time you choose your values over others' opinions, every time you maintain your standards despite social pressure, every time you remain calm in the face of criticism, you're adding stones to your inner fortress. Over time, this citadel becomes so strong that nothing external can disturb your peace. The virtue focus, the fifth brutal truth, is that success without virtue is hollow, and virtue without success is still fulfilling. Marcus Aurelius had achieved the ultimate worldly success. He was literally the most powerful man on earth, yet he understood that his achievements meant nothing if he wasn't a good person. He wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. True victory isn't about defeating others, it's about becoming the best version of yourself." Our culture has become obsessed with external markers of success. Money, fame, status, achievements, and recognition. We measure people's worth by their net worth, their followers, their accomplishments, and their possessions. This creates a society of people who are successful but not fulfilled, achieved but not content, recognized but not respected. They've won the game but lost their souls. The Stoics understood that virtue is the only true good because it's the only thing that's entirely within your control and can never be taken away from you. You can lose your money, your health, your relationships, and your reputation, but you can never lose your character unless you choose to abandon it. This is why virtue is the foundation of genuine happiness and the source of lasting satisfaction. Virtue isn't about being perfect or never making mistakes. It's about consistently choosing to do the right thing even when it's difficult, unpopular, or unprofitable. It's about being honest when lying would be easier, being kind when cruelty would be more satisfying, being courageous when cowardice would be safer. Virtue is the commitment to excellence in character regardless of external circumstances. Marcus Aurelius could have been the most successful tyrant in history. He had the power to take anything he wanted, do anything he pleased, and punish anyone who opposed him. Instead, he chose to be just, compassionate, and wise. He understood that true greatness comes from moral excellence, not from domination or accumulation. This is why he's remembered as one of the greatest men who ever lived, not just one of the most successful. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. It means you can't use external success as an excuse for internal failure. You can't justify being dishonest, cruel, or selfish because you're successful. You can't excuse character flaws because you're achieving your goals. Your achievements are meaningless if you're not a good person, and your failures are irrelevant if you maintain your virtue. The practical application of virtue focus requires a complete reorientation of priorities. Instead of asking, "What will make me successful?" you must ask, "What will make me a good person?" Instead of pursuing what will advance your career, you must pursue what will advance your character. Instead of seeking what will make you popular, you must seek what will make you principled. This doesn't mean abandoning your goals or avoiding success. It means pursuing them in a way that builds rather than compromises your character. You can be ambitious and virtuous, successful and ethical, wealthy and wise. The key is ensuring that your means are as important as your ends, that your methods are as valuable as your goals. The virtue focus also provides a different kind of security and confidence. When your sense of self is based on your character rather than your achievements, you become unshakable. You can face failure without being destroyed because your worth isn't dependent on your results. You can experience success without being corrupted because your identity isn't dependent on your achievements. This is the secret to sustainable happiness and lasting fulfillment. External success is temporary, but virtue is permanent. External achievements can be lost, but character endures. External recognition fades, but integrity remains. When you focus on becoming a good person rather than just a successful person, you build a foundation that can weather any storm and provide satisfaction regardless of circumstances. The present moment, the sixth brutal truth, is that the only moment you have is this one, and you're probably wasting it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present." Most people live in the past or the future, replaying old wounds or fantasizing about future outcomes, while completely missing the only moment they can actually influence. The present one, your past exists only in your memory, and your future exists only in your imagination. The present moment is the only place where life actually happens, where decisions are made, where actions are taken, where experiences occur. Yet most people spend their present moments thinking about times that no longer exist or times that may never come to pass. This isn't just philosophical abstraction, it's practical reality. When you're dwelling on past mistakes, you're not learning from them or moving forward, you're just reliving them. When you're worrying about future problems, you're not solving them or preparing for them, you're just creating anxiety. Neither mental state is productive, and both prevent you from engaging fully with the only moment you can actually control. The Stoics understood that presence is power. When you're fully engaged with the current moment, you can respond to situations with clarity, make decisions with wisdom, and take actions with effectiveness. When your mind is scattered across time, you can't focus your energy on what actually matters. Presence is the prerequisite for excellence in any area of life. Marcus Aurelius faced constant pressure from military campaigns, political intrigue, and administrative responsibilities. He could have been overwhelmed by regrets about past decisions or anxiety about future challenges. Instead, he trained himself to focus on the present moment, dealing with each situation as it arose with full attention and commitment. This presence allowed him to be effective despite facing enormous complexity and pressure. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. It reveals how much of your life you're actually missing. When you're physically present but mentally absent, you're not really living. When you're going through the motions while your mind is elsewhere, you're sleepwalking through your existence. Most people are unconscious during most of their lives, and this unconsciousness is a form of death. The modern world has made presence almost impossible. We are constantly connected to devices that pull our attention away from the present moment. We are bombarded with information about past events and future possibilities. We are encouraged to multitask, which is really just a way of being partially present to multiple things rather than fully present to anything. The practical application of present moment awareness requires deliberate practice and conscious effort. You must learn to catch your mind when it wanders to the past or future and gently bring it back to the present. You must develop the ability to focus on one thing at a time rather than trying to do multiple things simultaneously. You must create space for stillness and reflection rather than constantly stimulating your mind. This doesn't mean ignoring the past or failing to plan for the future. It means dealing with the past and future from the present moment. You can learn from past experiences without dwelling on them. You can prepare for future challenges without worrying about them. The key is to use the present moment as your base of operations for all mental activity. Present moment awareness also enhances the quality of your experiences. When you're fully present during conversations, you connect more deeply with others. When you're fully present during activities, you enjoy them more completely. When you're fully present during challenges, you handle them more effectively. Presence transforms ordinary moments into extraordinary ones. The ultimate realization about the present moment is that it's all you ever have. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, but the present is guaranteed. This moment is your life, and how you spend it determines who you become. When you learn to live fully in the present, you discover that you already have everything you need for happiness, fulfillment, and peace. The social duty, the seventh brutal truth, is that other people are your assignment, not your enemy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We were born to work together like feet, hands, and eyes, like the two rows of teeth, upper and lower." Even the most difficult people in your life are opportunities to practice virtue, and your responsibility is to respond to them with wisdom and compassion, regardless of how they treat you. This is perhaps the most challenging aspect of Stoic philosophy because it requires you to maintain your character regardless of others' behavior. You can't control how people treat you, but you can control how you respond to their treatment. You can't make people kind, but you can choose to be kind. You can't force people to be reasonable, but you can choose to be reasonable. Marcus Aurelius dealt with senators who plotted against him, generals who betrayed him, and citizens who criticized him. He had the power to destroy anyone who opposed him, yet he chose to respond with justice and mercy. He understood that his character was determined by his actions, not by others' actions toward him. He refused to let other people's behavior corrupt his own virtue. The social duty principle requires you to see difficult people as opportunities rather than obstacles. The person who annoys you is giving you a chance to practice patience. The person who criticizes you is giving you a chance to practice humility. The person who betrays you is giving you a chance to practice forgiveness. Every challenging interaction is a chance to demonstrate your character. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. It means you can't use other people's behavior as an excuse for your own poor behavior. You can't justify being cruel because someone was cruel to you. You can't excuse being dishonest because someone was dishonest with you. You can't rationalize being selfish because someone was selfish with you. Your character is your responsibility, regardless of how others behave. This doesn't mean being a doormat or allowing people to abuse you. It means responding to difficult people with strength and wisdom rather than weakness and emotion. Sometimes the virtuous response is to set boundaries, sometimes it's to walk away, sometimes it's to stand up for yourself. The key is responding from a place of principle rather than reaction. The Stoics understood that we're all connected and that our behavior affects others just as their behavior affects us. When you respond to negativity with virtue, you break the cycle of negative behavior. When you respond to cruelty with kindness, you model a better way. When you respond to ignorance with wisdom, you elevate the entire interaction. The practical application of social duty involves developing what the Stoics called sympatheia, the understanding that we are all part of the same whole. This means seeing other people as fellow travelers on the journey of life rather than competitors or enemies. It means recognizing that everyone is struggling with their own challenges and limitations. This perspective transforms how you interact with difficult people. Instead of taking their behavior personally, you can see it as a reflection of their own pain or ignorance. Instead of responding with anger or resentment, you can respond with compassion and understanding. This doesn't mean excusing bad behavior, but it means understanding that hurt people hurt people. The social duty also extends to your positive influence on others. You have the opportunity to be a source of strength, wisdom, and encouragement for the people in your life. You can model virtue, share wisdom, and provide support. Your commitment to excellence in character can inspire others to pursue their own excellence. The ultimate realization about social duty is that we're all in this together. The same challenges that face you also face others. The same virtues that benefit you also benefit society. When you commit to being your best self, you contribute to the improvement of the whole human community. This is how individual virtue becomes collective virtue. The material detachment, the eighth brutal truth, is that your possessions own you more than you own them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Very little is needed to make a happy life. It is all within yourself, in your way of thinking. The things you think you need for happiness are often the things that prevent you from being happy. Material attachment creates anxiety, dependency, and a never-ending cycle of desire that can never be satisfied. This doesn't mean living in poverty or avoiding nice things. It means understanding the proper relationship between yourself and your possessions. Things should serve you, not the other way around. You should own things, not be owned by them. Material goods are tools for living, not the purpose of living. When you reverse this relationship, you become a slave to your possessions. The Stoics understood that happiness comes from within, not from external circumstances or possessions. They recognized that the pursuit of material goods is ultimately futile because there's no amount of stuff that can fill the emptiness inside. The person who needs possessions to feel good about themselves will never have enough possessions to feel truly good. Marcus Aurelius had access to unlimited wealth and luxury, yet he lived simply and focused on virtue rather than accumulation. He understood that having more things doesn't make you a better person, and that losing things doesn't make you a worse person. Your worth is determined by your character, not your possessions. The modern world has created a culture of materialism that equates success with accumulation. We are constantly bombarded with messages telling us that we need more stuff to be happy. We are encouraged to buy things we don't need with money we don't have to impress people we don't like. This creates a society of people who are wealthy but not wealthy, successful but not satisfied. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. It means that most of your financial stress and anxiety is self-created. You're not struggling because you don't have enough. You're struggling because you want too much. You're not poor because you lack possessions. You're poor because you lack contentment. The solution isn't to earn more money, it's to need less stuff. The practical application of material detachment involves developing what the Stoics called preferred indifference regarding possessions. This means you can prefer nice things without being attached to them. You can enjoy luxury without being enslaved by it. You can appreciate beauty without needing to own it. This doesn't mean living in deprivation or avoiding all pleasures. It means understanding that your happiness doesn't depend on your possessions. You can enjoy nice things when you have them and be content when you don't. You can appreciate quality without being obsessed with quantity. You can value things without being valued by things. Material detachment also provides freedom and flexibility. When you're not attached to your possessions, you can make decisions based on what's best for your life rather than what's best for your stuff. You can take risks, make changes, and pursue opportunities without being held back by your attachment to things. The ultimate realization about material detachment is that it makes you rich regardless of your financial situation. When you don't need things to be happy, you already have everything you need. When you're not dependent on possessions for your sense of self, you're free to be yourself. This is true wealth, the ability to be content with what you have while working toward what you want. The reputation indifference, the ninth brutal truth, is that your reputation is not your character, and caring too much about what others think will destroy both. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. Your reputation exists in other people's minds and is largely beyond your control, while your character exists in your actions and is entirely within your control. The distinction between reputation and character is crucial but often misunderstood. Reputation is what others think of you. Character is who you actually are. Reputation is based on perception. Character is based on reality. Reputation can be manipulated. Character must be earned. Reputation is temporary. Character is permanent. Yet most people spend more time managing their reputation than developing their character. This creates a fundamental problem. When you're focused on managing other people's opinions, you're not focused on managing your own behavior. When you're trying to control your image, you're not trying to control your actions. When you're seeking external validation, you're not seeking internal improvement. The pursuit of reputation often corrupts character. Marcus Aurelius was one of the most powerful men in history, which meant he was constantly subject to public scrutiny, political criticism, and social judgment. He had every reason to be concerned about his reputation, yet he chose to focus on his character instead. He understood that reputation is fickle and unreliable, while character is solid and dependable. The modern world has made reputation management an obsession. Social media creates constant opportunities to craft and control your image. We curate our online presence, manage our personal brand, and worry about how we are perceived by others. This creates anxiety, inauthenticity, and a disconnect between who we are and who we appear to be. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. It means you must be willing to be misunderstood, criticized, and even disliked. You must be prepared to have your actions misinterpreted, your motives questioned, and your character attacked. This is the price of authenticity and the cost of living according to your values rather than others' expectations. The practical application of reputation indifference involves developing what the Stoics called internal scorecard thinking. Instead of measuring your worth by what others think of you, you measure it by what you think of yourself. Instead of seeking validation from external sources, you validate yourself based on your own standards and values. This doesn't mean being indifferent to feedback or immune to criticism. It means evaluating feedback based on its merit rather than its source, and responding to criticism with wisdom rather than emotion. Good feedback can help you improve, but you must be the judge of what's good feedback and what's just noise. Reputation indifference also provides freedom to be authentic. When you're not constantly trying to manage other people's perceptions, you can focus on being true to yourself. You can make decisions based on your values rather than others' expectations. You can pursue your goals without worrying about how they'll be perceived. The ultimate realization about reputation is that it's largely out of your control anyway. People will think what they want to think regardless of your efforts to manage their opinions. Your energy is better spent on developing your character and living according to your principles. When you focus on being good rather than looking good, you often end up looking good anyway. The emotional sovereignty, the 10th brutal truth, is that your emotions are your responsibility, not others. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. No one can make you angry, sad, or frustrated without your permission. Your emotional state is determined by your thoughts and interpretations, not by external circumstances or other people's actions. This is perhaps the most empowering realization in all of philosophy, but it's also the most challenging to accept. It means you can't blame your bad moods on other people, your anxiety on your circumstances, or your unhappiness on your situation. You are the author of your emotional experience, which means you're also the only one who can change it. The Stoics understood that emotions are not automatic responses to external events. They're the result of our judgments about those events. Two people can experience the same situation and have completely different emotional responses based on their interpretations. The situation itself is neutral. It's our thoughts about the situation that create our emotions. Marcus Aurelius faced betrayal, criticism, and attack throughout his reign, yet he maintained his emotional equilibrium. He didn't allow other people's actions to disturb his inner peace because he understood that his peace was his responsibility. He chose his emotional responses based on his values and principles rather than reacting automatically to external stimuli. The modern world encourages emotional victimhood. We are taught that our feelings are valid regardless of their origin, that we should express our emotions regardless of their appropriateness, and that others are responsible for our emotional well-being. This creates a culture of emotional children who expect others to manage their feelings for them. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. It means you can't use your emotions as excuses for your behavior. You can't justify being cruel because you're angry, being lazy because you're depressed, or being irresponsible because you're stressed. Your emotions are information, not instructions. They tell you something about your internal state, but they don't dictate your actions. The practical application of emotional sovereignty involves developing what the Stoics called the discipline of desire. This means learning to want what happens rather than demanding that what you want happens. It means accepting reality as it is while working to change what you can change. It means finding peace with what you can't control while taking responsibility for what you can. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending they don't exist. It means understanding that emotions are temporary mental states that you can observe, evaluate, and choose how to respond to. You can feel angry without acting angrily. You can experience sadness without being overwhelmed by it. You can acknowledge fear without being paralyzed by it. Emotional sovereignty also provides stability and strength. When your emotional state isn't dependent on external circumstances, you become unshakable. You can face challenges with composure, handle criticism with grace, and deal with setbacks with resilience. Your emotional stability becomes a source of strength for yourself and others. The ultimate realization about emotional sovereignty is that it's the foundation of all other freedoms. When you're emotionally dependent on others, you're not really free. When your happiness depends on circumstances, you're at the mercy of forces beyond your control. But when you take responsibility for your emotional state, you become truly free regardless of your external circumstances. The growth imperative, the 11th brutal truth, is that you must grow or die. There is no middle ground. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." Everything in nature is either growing or decaying, and human beings are no exception. The moment you stop growing, you start dying, not just physically but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. This isn't about career advancement or external achievements, it's about internal development. You must constantly challenge yourself, learn new things, develop new skills, and expand your understanding of yourself and the world. Comfort is the enemy of growth, and growth is the essence of life. When you settle for mediocrity, you're choosing a form of death. The Stoics understood that the human capacity for growth and improvement is unlimited. Unlike other animals, humans can consciously choose to develop their character, expand their knowledge, and improve their capabilities. This capacity for self-improvement is what makes us human, and failing to exercise it is a betrayal of our nature. Marcus Aurelius never stopped learning and growing despite being the most powerful man in the world. He studied philosophy, reflected on his experiences, and constantly worked to improve his character. He understood that leadership requires continuous development, and that the moment you think you've learned enough is the moment you become obsolete. The modern world provides unprecedented opportunities for growth and learning, yet many people choose stagnation instead. They get comfortable in their routines, avoid challenges that might stretch them, and settle for mediocrity in their personal development. They trade growth for comfort and wonder why they feel empty and unfulfilled. But here's what makes this truth particularly brutal. It means you can't use your age, circumstances, or past failures as excuses for not growing. You can't say you're too old to learn, too busy to improve, or too damaged to change. Growth is a choice that's available to everyone at every stage of life. The only thing stopping you from growing is your own resistance to change. The practical application of the growth imperative involves creating what the Stoics called preferred challenges. Instead of avoiding difficulty, you seek out challenges that will stretch you and help you develop. Instead of staying in your comfort zone, you deliberately put yourself in situations that require you to grow. This doesn't mean being reckless or taking unnecessary risks. It means being intentional about pursuing experiences that will challenge you and help you develop. It means choosing the harder path when the harder path will make you stronger. It means embracing discomfort as a sign that you're growing. The growth imperative also applies to your relationships, career, and life circumstances. You must constantly evaluate whether these areas of your life are supporting your growth or hindering it. Relationships that don't challenge you to be better are draining your life force. Jobs that don't require you to develop new skills are slowly killing your potential. The ultimate realization about growth is that it's not optional, it's essential. The universe is constantly evolving, and you must evolve with it or be left behind. The choice isn't between growth and staying the same, it's between growth and decay. When you commit to continuous growth, you align yourself with the fundamental force of life itself. The Stoic transformation, the final brutal truth, is that knowing these principles means nothing unless you live them. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." Philosophy is not an intellectual exercise, it's a way of life. These truths are not meant to be understood, they're meant to be practiced. The gap between knowing and doing is where most people fail. The Stoic transformation requires daily practice, not just intellectual understanding. You must wake up each morning committed to living according to these principles. You must face each challenge as an opportunity to demonstrate your character. You must end each day by reflecting on how well you lived up to your values. This is not a one-time decision, it's a daily commitment. Marcus Aurelius didn't just write about Stoic principles, he lived them. He faced every challenge of his reign with virtue, wisdom, and courage. He treated every person with dignity and respect. He made every decision based on what was right rather than what was easy. He proved that these principles work in the real world, under real pressure, with real consequences. The transformation from ordinary person to Stoic sage is not easy or comfortable. It requires you to give up excuses, embrace responsibility, and face reality without illusions. It demands that you hold yourself to the highest standards regardless of how others behave. It asks you to be the person you want to meet in the world. But here's what makes this truth the most brutal of all. It means you can't wait for the perfect moment to start living these principles. You can't wait until you're ready, until your circumstances improve, or until you've learned more. You must start now with what you have, where you are imperfectly but sincerely. The practical application of Stoic transformation involves creating daily practices that reinforce these principles. Morning reflection to set your intentions, evening review to assess your progress, and moment-to-moment awareness to choose virtue over vice. These practices gradually rewire your brain and reshape your character. This transformation also requires surrounding yourself with people who support your growth and removing yourself from environments that encourage your worst impulses. You must choose your influences carefully because you become what you consistently expose yourself to. If you want to become a better person, you must associate with better people. The ultimate realization about Stoic transformation is that it's not about becoming perfect, it's about becoming better. It's not about never making mistakes, it's about learning from them. It's not about achieving some final state of wisdom, it's about committing to the lifelong journey of growth. This is how you become the person Marcus Aurelius would approve of. The 12 brutal truths of Stoicism are not just ancient philosophy, they're practical tools for modern living. They provide a framework for handling any challenge, a foundation for any achievement, and a path to genuine fulfillment. When you truly understand and apply these principles, you'll discover what Marcus Aurelius knew, that the greatest victory is not over others, but over yourself. Your transformation begins now. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Now, because the person you're meant to become is waiting for you to make the choice to start becoming them. The question isn't whether you can live these principles, it's whether you will. Marcus Aurelius would approve of nothing less than your complete commitment to becoming the best version of yourself.